you for joining us today for Celebrate Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day, in our tour in the old city of Jerusalem. We are very lucky to have Shlomo Tal. For people that already been with Shlomo as our tour guide, Shlomo is amazing tour guide we are very lucky to have you today. So thank you, Shlomo, for joining us all the way from Jerusalem to share your knowledge, experience, and background about Jerusalem. We are really ready to start our tour. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello and welcome. My name is Shlomo. I work at the Western World Heritage Foundation, and this is one of the greatest opportunities that I have ever had to work together with a JNF, especially JNF Canada, Jewish National Fund, and bringing Jerusalem, connecting all the people around the world to the roots, and especially like a tree that is growing and connecting to the roots, and especially Jerusalem. And on this very special day, during our tour, I'm going to be sharing different screens, and we are going to be visiting in Jerusalem as if we are going to be there. We kind of scanned most of the parts of the Jewish quarter of Jerusalem in this virtual reality. And together with that, I'm going to be jumping through space and through different pictures and presentations in order to deliver the best experience of Jerusalem to you. For the best of your experience, we would like to ask you to make sure that most of the time your microphones are on mute. On the second hand, I would love love really to see your faces as much as possible, because for us, it's not a recorded tour which was recorded in advance, but it is real tour right now as if we are traveling in Jerusalem. So that means that as far as I'm seeing your faces and I see who are in front of me and I see your reactions, and this is kind of live conversation, while always also during the tour you can ask me any questions. One of the preferred ways of asking questions is through the chat. I'm going to be opening the chat once in a while, but also several times we'll have this opportunity and I will ask you if you have any questions, please open your microphones and speak, but please do not forget to mute yourselves back. So for everyone, it's going to be the best experience ever. So we are beginning our tour from the Tower of King David, one of the most iconic sites in Jerusalem. Everywhere you draw Jerusalem, you will probably draw the Kotel and King David's tower. So what is the story of this place and what is the connection to King David? So beforehand, I would like to make something like a panoramic view together with you to look around these beautiful gates and these beautiful the beautiful walls of the old city on one side, and actually the newest city with hotels and parks and pools and bars and kids playing around soccer and everything. So it's all, and one of the most special things in Jerusalem, right? It's something like a national bird of Jerusalem is a building crane. So you can see here a crane. So yeah, it's like that. We are building all the time. It's impossible with all the building crises all around the world. We're still building, and we are still building all the time. Jerusalem is the biggest city around here, the biggest city of the land of Israel. Even here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 building cranes, and it's only around the small area of the old city. So the ancient and the new is everything combined all together. But let's get back to King David. And in order to get back to King David, I would like to fly together with you to the space and view Jerusalem over from the space. And I know, of course, guys, you're sitting somewhere here in Canada, a beautiful place. My dad, actually, I'm personally from the former Soviet Union. I was born and raised in Kazakhstan. I made Aliyah, I get to Israel something like 27 years ago. But my dad had an opportunity to travel in Canada. He was filming documentary films, and he had an opportunity to be in Canada. And for me, always Canada, it's like the place of dreams, something that I always wanted to visit, never visited yet. Hopefully soon I will be able to visit this beautiful country. But meanwhile, I have arrived to Jerusalem and Israel, and here we are. By the way, I would love to share with you one drawing. It's a map of a person who visited Jerusalem at the year of 1581. His name was Heinrich Bunting. He was a German traveler, and when he visited Jerusalem, he painted the world map like this, with Jerusalem in the middle. And of course, he didn't try to be precise. He wanted to deliver a message. He wanted to tell the story. And that's it's all about. Jerusalem is a city of stories, so many stories. And part of the story is something that we are going to be sharing together during this tour. We'll get down there a little bit lower towards the land of Israel. And you can see here all the different sides of the land of Israel, all the different places inside the land of Israel, with with the desert and the Red Sea and the Dead Sea and the Galilee Sea. Okay, in Israel, everything is so concentrated. So every small pool of water you call a sea, and every small hill you call a mountain. Okay, that's just because it's so much concentrated here. Okay, and then let's get down to the biggest city of the land of Israel right now, the state of Israel. It's of course Jerusalem. It's something like 10% of all the population of the state of Israel. They live in Jerusalem. 900,000 residents. And this is one of the biggest cities. This is the biggest city in the land of Israel, but this is all only 150 years ago, because beforehand, everything concentrated just right here in the old city, and that's all. The old city was growing and getting smaller throughout the ages, but everything have started at this area. So this is the city of King David. 3,000 years ago, King David arrived and established our city of Jerusalem as our eternal Jewish capital. And he built our capital, this place, because according to the Jewish tradition, this place did not belong to any one of the 12 different tribes. So 12 different tribes, something like united or misunited states of Israel, living at the different parts of the land. But this place did not belong to any tribe. So King David thought to himself, if I will build a capital to a place that did not belong to any one of the tribes, that means that everyone can feel here at home. And then King Solomon already built the first temple on the top of the mountain. Throughout the ages, lots of different kings and lots of different types of powers and empires that lived here. They expanded the city and they contracted the city. And nowadays, the old city of Jerusalem is only these yellow margins over here, this yellow frame. So this is the old city of Jerusalem that was built here only. And when I'm speaking to the people of the world and I say it was built only 400 years ago, most people will say, wait a minute, 400 years ago, it's like, when America was born, right? Or something like this. But yeah, for Jerusalem, 400 years ago, it's just only 400 years ago. And there was this guy that we call him, he was a Sultan, the Turkish Sultan Suleiman, the beautiful one, the Sultan that in Israel we call him an onion head Sultan. Okay, because of this turban, onion turban, something like this. So that's how the kids in Israel call him. So he built the city walls 400 years ago, and part of what he built was actually this tower as a part of the city walls around Jerusalem. And so, but just wait a minute. In the beginning, I told you that this place is called the Tower of King David. And what it has to do with King David, it was built here only 400 years ago. And also, King David's city of David was something like 1 mile away from here, because that's the place where we are standing. This is the tower, which is called King David's Tower. And this is the city of King David. It's like 1 mile distance. So why did they call this place the Tower of King David? And one of the explanations explained here by the historians is that for most people around the world, this place, that's not the place of historical details. Jerusalem is a place of a dream, of a story. And that means, during the generations, lots of different communities, they had no opportunity to get to see Jerusalem. So once in a while, they were able to pay for one person, maybe like a rabbi, maybe like the leader of the community, to come to Jerusalem and to describe it to them back, returning back to the community through the stories or through the drawings or through poetry or through anything possible. And so because of that, most of people, when they came to Jerusalem and they saw Jerusalem, for them, it was not Jerusalem of like scientific truth. It was Jerusalem of a dream. It's like dreaming about this place. That it was about yearning to come here. And because of that, everything reminded them the King of David. It's like King David, of course. If there is a tower, it's going to be King David's tower. If it's going to be a wall, it's going to be King David's wall. If it's going to be a pit, it's going to be King David's pit. So everything connected to King David. So this is the dream of the place, and this is the story of the place. And that's why also King David's tower is called King David's tower. And this is one of the only things that we can say about this place. And of course, this whole citadel was built something like 2,000 years ago by King Herod, and we'll probably mention King Herod later on. And also when the Great Rebellion was happening here against the Roman Empire, the last of the rebellion forces were hiding inside this place. And of course, the Crusaders came and used this citadel to become this Crusaders' Knight citadel. But in general, all this thing and the connection to what you see here, King David, it is more of a story rather than of a fact. And this is something beautiful about Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a place of a myth, of a story, of a dream. But this dream, actually, today we are celebrating that this dream came true. And now this is nevermore the city of a story. It's a city of living people making a mess here. You see garbage tins, and that means that the city is alive, right? If there's no place for garbage, that means that the city is not alive anymore. So, and that's where we're going to be traveling. And we are leaving behind ourselves the city of the tails, and we are moving towards the city of the head, of the living city right now. And I know I love puns, so the city of tails. Okay. And we are moving towards the future. We moved inside the living quarter of Jerusalem, the Jewish quarter. If you will watch this place over here, the city of Jerusalem is split to 4 different quarters. Okay, obviously quarters, right? But anywhere in the world, when we call the different districts quarters, it's because of the Romans. Okay, in every Roman Empire, every city would be split to 4 quarters. Okay, that's not crucifixion. It has to do nothing with Christianity. It's just because the Roman people, they were very, very organized. And in every city, there was a street which would split the city from north to south, and it would be called the Cardo. It's like the heart, cardiology, right? Cardo, it's the heart of the city, the center of the city. And there was another street that would be called Decumanus, which would split the city from the west to the east. And because everything has to be organized in the Roman Empire, so that's why we call the different districts in every city nowadays quarters, but in Jerusalem, they are really quarters. And we have the Muslim quarter, and we have the Christian quarter, and we have the Armenian quarter, and we have the Jewish quarter. And that's where we are. We are standing right now just by the entrance of the Jewish quarter, something like around this place. And we'll return back. And standing by this place, I would like to turn to the right and to enter together with you and visit one of the museums of the old city of Jerusalem. This is a very special museum. This museum, they decided we want to try to describe the life of the Jews in Jerusalem during the last several hundreds of years. And what you see here is actually different natural, original artifacts of how people live their lives. And what you see here in front of yourself, okay, welcome to, let's say, the house of the Cohen family, or maybe, I don't know, Zuckerman family, or maybe something like a Haddad family, because we don't know who lived here. But what we know is that this room was actually home for the whole entire family. The entrance that we entered through, this doorway, is actually very artificial because of the museum. They kind of they broke the wall and they created another entrance here. But the real entrance to this room was just this entrance inside, and everything else is one of the homes of the old city. The whole entire family used to live at this place. And what you see here in front of yourself, which looks like something like a living room, right? The sofa one and the second one, it is just a pile of mattresses. During the nighttime, they would unstack the mattresses and put them all over the room, and the whole family, like, you know, like sleeping all together in one this place, and all this department would become one entire bedroom. During the morning, they pick up everything. They pick up everything very accurately. And, you know, all the kids will stand in a row, washing their hands and washing their faces. Where's the tap? That's where the tap is. And, you know, obviously the father used to wake up early in the morning, go to the well outside with a bucket and bring the water, fill up the tap so the kids would be able to wash their faces. Probably by the end of this long ceremony, the sink was supposed to be taken outside, and, you know, you pour everything outside, and that's how people used to live here. But wait, breakfast time. Where do you cook your breakfast? Just by the entrance, you would probably have your kitchen, and that's all. That's a kitchen. Okay, try to imagine yourself cooking Shabbos in this kitchen, right? That's all. This small grill, and this is a small stove, and they had probably one or two pots so they could cook something, and that's all. This is that's how people used to live here until something like 100 years ago. And that was Jerusalem was for most of the people, when we are, you know, on one hand speaking from the point of view of the residents. But on the second hand, I will walk together with you through another apartment. And as you can see here, this apartment is a little bit fancier. It's a little bit more space, but yet this is the whole apartment of the people that used to live here. But then we enter the courtyard. And the courtyard is very important because back then, the entrance to this place was through the main entrance of the courtyard. And each one of the courtyards would have probably 4 or 5 families living inside. And that would be the meeting point. And back then in Jerusalem, just imagine to yourself 200, 300 years ago, from one apartment, you would probably hear something like the Caucasian language, and from another, Moroccan, and from another, Polish, and from another, maybe German, or maybe Persian. And all the different neighbors from all around Israel, they used to live together very tight. On the second hand, we're very friendly, very much together. And the descriptions of the people who used to live here up to 100 years ago, they described that despite all the differences between us, Jerusalem was always the place that would unify us all together in poverty or in the better times, but always Jerusalem was the place that we were yearning to return to. Despite all the tribulations and despite all the all this density of population here inside. We will walk down a little bit, and we are walking all our way. By the end of our tour, we will get to the Western Wall, to the Kotel, and meanwhile, we will try to see Jerusalem and what it used to mean for the Jewish people throughout the generations. And I'm moving down, and as you can see here, the signs are in Hebrew, and okay, hairstyle. Old city, Jerusalem, yeah, hairstyle, of course, you know, you come to the Kotel, you want to prepare yourself well, right? And you go down, and suddenly, you know, we are, in a second, we are standing inside the ancient Roman street. So this Roman street is not the street of Jerusalem. It's a street of another city which is called Ilia Capitolina. And the story of this time, I will tell you through the newspapers, which are about 2,000 years old. And of course, when I say newspapers, I mean the coins. So at the year of 70, the Roman Empire arrives and destroys Jerusalem. 4 Roman legions, they come in the main force of the Roman legions, the 10th Roman legion, that was the main sign of the legion, as you can see here on these drawings, destruction of Jerusalem and the fight of Jerusalem. And afterwards, the Caesar, okay, the emperor, that was the name of the emperor in the Roman Empire, HaKaisar, Vespasian, okay, he delivers the message to his whole empire. I have conquered Judea. Okay, Judea is presented here as a lady sitting under the palm tree, and someone like, you know, like a soldier standing above her with this position of power. And the letters here tell us Judea capta, that Judea is in captivity. For several tens of years, Judea and Jerusalem are deserted. Only the 10th Roman legion, they keep Jerusalem, so the Jews will have no possibility to return to their city. 60 years later, another emperor arrives, and he becomes the emperor of the Roman Empire. And he's this kind of, you know, philosophical guy, and he's trying to make things better. And he says, okay, I would really love to forgive Judea and to build her back. So he decides, I'm going on a journey to Judea, and this is the coin that he delivers towards the journey. You see AVG, Judea. So he is on a journey to Judea, and what he does, he raises his hand, something like, I forgive you, Judea. And Judea is already standing, and all the kids of her, the Jews around Judea, are standing and giving him a present. Okay, everything looks great. For his arrival, this street was built, and the columns and the shops and everything. And even you can see how the street is actually part of the very ancient structure of the city of Jerusalem. We will see the street, this very thin, dark line is the central street of the city that was built for the arrival of Adrian. And as you can see, this is a mosaic floor that was found in a Jordanian church of something like 6th century, and it describes the streets of the old city. And this is the main street. This is the main street, the Cartel. And for the sake of arrival of Hadrian, the street was built. And that's where we are standing together with you. And so imagine to yourselves the rumors around the land of Israel, the Galilee and the Judean desert, and all the Jews coming to Jerusalem. They're waiting for Emperor Hadrian to come. And when he comes here, he stands somewhere around this area, and he has his speech, and he says, Jews, I want to forgive Jerusalem. So therefore, I'm going to rebuild the city. And imagine to yourself all the celebrations like Jerusalem Day, right? And then he says, and I will rebuild the city, and I will rebuild the Temple Mountain. And on the Temple Mountain over there, I will build a temple to Jupiter. Isn't it amazing? And all the Jews standing there, they're like, Adrian, it's not Rome, it's Jerusalem. Can't you live like one city with one temple to one God and not to mess us around with these thousands of gods of yours? Probably, we don't know if Hadrian did it on purpose or not on purpose, but the preparations for the building of the temple to Jupiter began in the old city. And that was the fact that actually sparked the strongest and the most interesting and severe revolt against the Roman Empire in all the history of the Roman history, in the whole chronicles, the Bar Kokhba revolt. And as you can see here on the coin of Bar Kokhba, on one side there's the temple, and on the other side you can see the sign, the letters, the ancient Hebrew, which say Lechirut Yerushalayim, for the freedom of Jerusalem. So the rebellion went well for, I don't know, something like 3.5 years. But then Hadrian was so mad. He brought here 12 Roman legions. It was the third of the whole Roman Empire's army. And he very brutally, he depressed this rebellion. He killed 580,000 Jews in Judea. Dio Cassius, that's the name of the Roman historian, he described these battles. Not something that he would like to see. In any case, after this victory, Hadrian returns to Rome, and actually there was a very strange thing that he did. Usually, when each one of the emperors returned back to Rome with a victory, he would say, "Peace to me and my soldiers." Hadrian didn't say these words. Why? No one in the Roman Empire, no one knew in the Roman Empire. But then, several months afterwards, Hadrian decided several decisions, and he said, actually, I did not win the Jews, because I already see that we won them something like 2 or 3 times already. And they continue to rebel, and they continue to strive, and they continue to prosper. And how can it be? Where do they drive their force from? And so he went to learn, and he learned actually probably from these coins that the force, the heart of the Jewish nation is Jerusalem. So he decided, if I want to win the Jews, I need to win Jerusalem. What did he decide to do? I will wipe out the name Jerusalem from all the history books of the entire world, or at least the entire Roman Empire. And he said, from now on, the city is called Ilia Capitolina. No more Jerusalem, and Yoter Yerushalayim. There is only Ilia Capitolina. Ilia, because his name was Ilius Adrianus, and Capitolina because of the 3 Capitolian, the 3 main deities in the Roman mythology. And the Jew that is going to be caught in Jerusalem will die. And that's not enough. That's not enough, because if the Jews will remember that they belong to the place called Judea, they will return here. So if I really wanted to fight against the Jews and to defeat them, I need to eliminate the name Judea. From now on, this province is going to be called Province Palestina and not Judea anymore. That's where the name came from. And why this name? Because the Plishtim, the Philistines, they were the most ancient enemy of the Jewish people. And that's why he wanted to hurt us really hard. That's why he called our land Palestina. Okay, so, standing right here, right now, just several meters from this Roman street of Hadrian, and seeing the flags of Israel, it's something very, really, really strong. It doesn't matter how he tried. He couldn't eliminate Jerusalem from our national memories. And we tried to preserve Jerusalem so hard. And we brought our city into almost every practice, every tradition, every name, every prayer. We were drawing and writing and yearning. And now we have returned to our Jerusalem. And please, let's fly from the old city to the Israel National Museum. And here at the Israel National Museum, we can see this is actually, this is a statue of Adrian. The statue, the bronze statue of Adrian, is standing in the center of the Central Jewish Museum in Jerusalem. And you know, this place, I love to come here because first, this museum is amazing. Before the coronavirus, they had this program, Tuesdays, kids free day, so you don't pay for kids on Tuesdays. And I was coming here almost, so many times on Tuesday with my kids. And we were traveling all around and seeing the mummies and the history and the art and ancient synagogues and everything. But almost every time I had this custom to come here, to stand at this place, to look at this person's eyes, even if it's bronze eyes, and to say to him, hey, Adrian, how's Jerusalem doing? Do you understand where you're standing? You are in Jerusalem, in the state of Israel. So doesn't matter how he tried, doesn't matter how he tried to eliminate Jerusalem from our hearts and souls, he wasn't able to, because Jerusalem and the Jewish people, it's something like DNA connection. It's impossible. And also we had all the efforts in the world in order to bring Jerusalem into our everyday life by every possible sign or by every possible opportunity. But also, it wasn't only about writing about Jerusalem and dreaming about Jerusalem or praying about Jerusalem. Every time when we had an opportunity to come here, we would do so. So I'm going down the stairs, and I would like to show you one of the main one of the four Sephardic Hispanic synagogues in Jerusalem. So what happened here and how the synagogue was built? So let's travel back in time to 1492. 1492 was a very special year in Europe. That was the year when the Spanish Empire finally conquered the southern Spain from the Muslims. And then they decided, let's keep the whole Spanish state Roman Christian, Roman Catholic. So that means what? Are you Jewish? Okay, you have a choice. You can run away out of here, or you can stay and accept Christianity. So some of the Jews stayed, but something like 200,000 Jews decided to flee out of Spain. At the same specific time, there was an emperor sitting in the Ottoman Empire. His name was Sultan Selim Khan. And Sultan Selim Khan, he was thinking to himself, how can I expand the borders and the strength of my Ottoman Empire? By the way, he was the father of Suleiman, the gorgeous, that built the city walls. So Sultan Selim Khan, he's sitting there and thinking, I probably, in order to expand my empire, need the people, the key people, right? The doctors, and I need trade people, I need politicians. And then suddenly he heard that the Spanish people, they're kicking out all the Jews. And he said, I would love all the Jews at my home. So he invited all the Jews from Spain to his empire. And, the Jews arrived to the Ottoman Empire, a little bit suspicious. But when at the year of 1517, the Turks, they conquered Jerusalem, they said, wow, amazing. Let's return back home. and they came here and they built a synagogue. The synagogue was built by people who were expelled from Spain, went through Turkey, and arrived here. When they arrived here, they asked the local citizens, and they said, do you know about something? What happened here beforehand? And the local citizens said, yeah, according to the tradition, there was a study hall of one of the sages from the times of the temple, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. And they said, okay, let's name the synagogue after him. He left Jerusalem. He was doubting, will we return one day? And we have returned, so let's call the synagogue after him. And here we prepared for you a photograph of a place. It was taken here during the year of 1905, something like 115 years ago. And during the holiday of Hanukkah, you can see all the Sephardic sages, all the Hispanic style sages, they sit here around because that was the central Sephardic synagogue of the whole land of Israel and of Jerusalem. But besides that, I heard very recently, something like a year ago, about a very special fact. I love reading history, and once in a while I get upon very special descriptions, and especially, describing people's visits in this city. So at the year of 1869, there was a very special person who visited Jerusalem. His name was Karl Joseph, and he was an emperor of the Austro-Hungarian Empire back then. And that's him. And when he visited the synagogue, there is a description of a person. His name was Pinchas Grajewski, who actually was walking together with him, and he walked into the Sephardic synagogue. And he describes that as once he entered the synagogue, he fell on the floor and bowed. So like you imagine to yourself, right? The king, the emperor of one of the strongest empire in the whole Europe, he was just falling here on the floor and bowing into the synagogue. And all his ministers, they are asking him, dear emperor, what do you think you do? And he said, don't worry. What I'm doing is very important, because here at this place, Titus, in the name of Rome, he actually spilled the blood of so many Jews. And may it be that me bowing here will repent for the sin of the Roman Empire against this beautiful nation. So you see, even the Austro-Hungarian emperor, he found the synagogue very fascinating, and he decided to express his appreciation to the Jewish people, and he expressed how much actually this city is the city of our ancestors and the city of our history. Yeah, walking back up, and the stories of Jerusalem, they are enormous. I can tell you stories about Jerusalem for something like 5 hours, until I won't fall asleep, even if it's right now, it's something like 12:30 at night. But because, Jerusalem is the city that for me, it's my heart and soul. I was born in the former Soviet Union. We had nothing Jewish in our home, because all the Judaism was eliminated there by the communists and everything. And I remember when I was a young kid and I heard that I'm Jewish and my connection to Jerusalem is in my DNA, I decided to myself, I belong to the land of Israel. So I made Aliyah. I came here being only 15 years old on my own without my parents, because for me, that was the only place that I felt that I belonged to. And now I have this privilege to tell the stories about Jerusalem and share it with the whole entire world. So we are standing by the central square in the old city of Jerusalem, and it's called the square of the synagogue of the Hurva, or the synagogue of destruction. Oh, isn't it amazing? We call the synagogue the destroyed synagogue, or the broken synagogue, or the destruction synagogue, Churva, that's the name that you give to the synagogue. And actually, the story here is very special because the synagogue was built something like 300 years ago by the students of Rabbi Yehuda Hasid from Poland. And after they bought this place, actually they had to pay taxes to the Turkish authorities, and they didn't have the money, so the Turkish authorities destroyed the synagogue. Then the Sephardic Jews just gave some money to the Ashkenazi community here and rebuilt the synagogue. And during the times of the War of Independence, this synagogue was blown up for the second time by the Jordanians and rebuilt just recently, something like 10 years ago. And so the name that gets stuck up to it, that this is the synagogue, the destroyed synagogue. There is a story of one woman that returned to the city of Jerusalem after the Six-Day War. Her name was Puah Steiner. And she wrote a book about Jerusalem being destroyed and about Jerusalem being recaptured and returning of the Jewish people to the city. And she wrote when she was a young girl, one of her most amazing experiences were to come to the synagogue and pray inside. And this is one of the photographs that was taken here, once again, something like 100 years ago, the synagogue of Churva inside. And she described that there were the most beautiful prayers, and especially during Shabbat in this synagogue. And then when she was a girl, Jerusalem was destroyed and they were thrown away from the old city. And for 19 years, they did not have any opportunity to return. And after 19 years, she was already married and she came here with her husband. And first, of course, they entered the Jaffa Gate, they entered the old city, and they came to see their home where she used to live when she was young. And the home was destroyed and blown up by Jordanian forces. And she was crying. And then she came to this courtyard. And back then, of course, the synagogue wasn't as beautiful as it is. It was just, half ruined piece of ruins and ruined stones. And she sat down on the floor of the synagogue and started crying. But her husband, he was laughing. He was so celebrative. He was so much happy. And she asked him, how can you laugh? Everything is destroyed. And he told her, how can you cry? We have returned. And she asked him, but everything is destroyed. And he said, but that's what we do, the Jews, we rebuild. And she was alive until something like 5 years ago. And she wrote by the end of her book, when he was really, really old and the synagogue was rebuilt, she remembered the words of her husband that we return to our city and we are rebuilding it. Just by the story of the synagogue of Churva, just by the story of the synagogue, it's something like the story of the whole Jewish nation, being broken and rebuilt. And one of the most amazing things is that despite all the tribulations, we always remembered our beautiful city, our Jerusalem, and we always were returning to it and remembering it. And also at the center of this beautiful city, we have this beautiful golden menorah. It is this menorah was built by the Temple Institute, the institute that tries to rebuild the temple vessels. And the donation was given by some Ukrainian Jew. And but just a second, wait. 2,000 years ago, there was a menorah in the temple. How do we know how it looked like? Okay, besides the descriptions in our ancient traditional texts, we have several evidences of how menorah looked like thousands of years ago. And one of them is here on the coin. Today in Israeli currency, we have this coin, which is called 10 agorot, 10 cents. And on the back of it, you have a replica of an ancient Hasmonean coin. This coin, what you see on the left, is actually a Hasmonean coin that was printed by the king Matityahu Antigonus II. He, his history was very strange because he was kind of the second Hasmonean rebellion, because the first rebellion succeeded against the Greeks, but then the Romans took over and King Herod came, and when King Herod died, Matityahu Antigonus II, he tried to rebuild the independent state of Israel. And so I don't know if he knew that it will succeed or no, but what is for sure is that for him it was very symbolic to put a menorah on his coin. So part of the hope, part of the light, part of the belief in that we will always be connected to this energy of enlightening the world. So this is the menorah on the coin of Matityahu Antigonus II. But also I would like to share with you another menorah from Israel National Museum. We will fly together with you from here through the space. We will fly to Rome. And in Rome, in Italy, at this very special place, just by the Colosseum, and the Colosseum is also another whole story, because the money to build this Colosseum and the amount of people that were killed here during these gladiators fights and everything, the money was plundered from Judea. That's the Jewish money that was taken in order to build it. But beforehand, Titus back then was a son of an emperor. Vespasian was an emperor, but Titus was leading all the forces of the Roman Empire and destroying the temple. When he came here, this arch was built for the sake of the celebration of his destroying Jerusalem and destroying the temple. And we will get down and we will see this arch from a street view. Here we go. And here on the right side, we have this type of a sculpture or drawing on the wall. And here you can see the last Jewish rebels returning, getting out of Jerusalem and carrying this menorah together with them. And that's how we know exactly how menorah looked like. And it's amazing how during the last 2,000 years this place survived, and this drawing survived, and we know how it looked like. There was an ancient tradition in Italy that Jews would never come under this arch. They had a vow when they said, "We entered here in captivity, we will never go through this arch anymore." But guess what? In the year of 1947, 29th of November, when there was a declaration of United Nations that there's going to be an opportunity for the Jewish people to return to reestablish their state, the Jews of Rome gathered at this square and walked by and through this arch towards the opposite direction, towards Jerusalem. And here we are. We can fly back from Rome and return back to Jerusalem. And in Jerusalem, we can stand, even though if it's in this virtual reality, in front of another menorah, which is a symbol of all the history of the Jewish people, the chain of generations of the Jewish people, lots of different central stories and central happenings of the history of the Jewish nation are expressed in this menorah. And this menorah is just right in front of the Knesset, the symbol of Jewish independence in the land of Israel. And kids are walking here and learning about our history. It's like this ancient prophecy that one day the kids will be playing in the streets of Jerusalem. We are almost by the Western Wall, but before we'll go there, there's one more place that I would love to share with you. And this place that I would love to share with you is one of the ancient finds of the old city. At the year of 1967, when the Jews returned to Jerusalem, as like a Poa Steiner that I told you her story, most of the Jews, they cried because they saw that the old city was deserted, that the Jewish quarter was blown up by Jordanians. But then, like this is saying, you give them lemons and they make out of it lemonade. The historians came and they said, isn't it amazing? We have two opportunities. First, we will rebuild the city. But second, before we will rebuild, let's dig underground. Because probably here we'll find some of the historical evidences of Jerusalem. And that's what they found. One of the biggest finds is this wall. This wall is one of the most ancient walls of Jerusalem. It is dated to the times of King Ezekiel, 2,800 years ago. The King Ezekiel, he was protecting the city of Jerusalem as a part of his rebellion against Assyrians. And Assyrian king Sanherib arrived to Jerusalem and left Jerusalem because he lost all of his soldiers because of the plague. It is described in the book of prophets, but also it is described just like this in the ancient manuscripts of Assyrians. But then something was a little bit strange. When the archaeologists were digging and finding this wall, they paid attention that actually this wall is kind of breaking some of the small buildings that were here around. And then one of the archaeologists who was digging here, he remembered, hey, in the book of prophets, there is a critique that prophet Yeshayahu was criticizing King Ezekiel. And he told him, okay, you built the wall, but why did you break private homes in order to do so? In Hebrew, hatitetsu habatim levatzera choma. Why did you break the private homes in order to build the city walls? And actually, this archaeologist who was digging here, he said, isn't it amazing? Here, the book of prophets, the ancient Tanakh, is coming to life. It's we see with our own eyes the stories which are told there. But actually, every time when I come at this place and I actually work in the old city and I come here every day, I love actually to stand by this angle at this point. And at this angle, at this point, I see two very separate, very far away, but very similar things. This is the wall of King Ezekiel, 2,800 years old. And this is a playground of kids who play here in the streets of Jerusalem. And actually, for me, this is probably one of the symbols of the city, ancient but new. Very much connected to the past, but very much alive in present, because the old city, without kids, it wouldn't be the old city. And they run around here and they play their soccer games and they scream and they cry. And that's how you see Jerusalem is alive once again. And, today we are celebrating the Day of Jerusalem. And this is the biggest celebration when, for me personally, when I see kids playing around the streets of the city, this is something that shows me and brings me to this point where this is the real celebration. And you can see them around 1:30 in the noon. You walk inside the old city and you see all this kind of old brothers taking their young brothers and sisters from the kindergartens and bring them home. And all the story of the kids playing around, the city is alive once again. We are getting a little bit more and more close to the Western Wall. And I would really like to finish our tour in this virtual tour in the old city of Jerusalem by the Western Wall. When it happened here, when we took these pictures, it was about a year ago. It was just after the first lockdown. We were able to take these pictures, and I remember we were really working really hard on the old city of Jerusalem. That was the second of our projects. The first one was the tunnels, and we really wanted to make sure that for Jerusalem Day a year ago, we would be able to deliver Jerusalem to the people around the world. And now it's already a year afterwards. Since then, we had 100,000 and 110,000 people around the world visiting Jerusalem and the Western Wall tunnels and all these places around the world. And this is amazing that even though we are a little bit far sometimes, but with the help of this technology, we can come here and we can visit and we can celebrate. Before we'll get to the Western Wall, I would like to share with you a very short video, which will tell us in 2 minutes the story of how our brave paratroopers came here in 1967 and made this all possible for all of us. It says so many generations are yearning. We will be the first ones to enter the old city. The armors are trying to enter the Lion's Gate. We will meet all at the entrance to the Temple Mountain. The Temple Mountain is in our heads. Is in our hands.
אני יורד ברגע זה, אני יורד במדרגות אל הכותל.
One of the journalists saying that I'm going down to the Kotel. I'm not a religious person, I have never been, but now I'm touching the stones of the Western Wall.
לשנה הזאת בירושלים הבנויה.
Since these days, we are celebrating every year already for the last 54 years, the celebration of Yom Yerushalayim. The central part of most of these celebrations are young people dancing with the flags coming up to the Western Wall. And you know, I was thinking actually something like 2 weeks ago, the Western Wall, what is this place? Besides, you know, being the biggest synagogue in the world, we have here 130 Torah scrolls and 64 bimas like this, and under the open sky, it's like a home without home. It's a home without roof. What we are praying by, we are praying by the leftovers, the broken wall of the temple. And people who were living here in Jerusalem, they called it a wailing wall because they saw the Jews coming here to cry. But for us, for the Jewish nation, it was never the kotel of crying. It was never the wall of crying. It was always the wall of hope, because it was part of the Western Wall. That was the symbol of us hoping to return. And several times I'm thinking, if I would return back in history to my grandparents in Lithuania 100 years ago, and would tell them, listen, can you imagine that your grandson is going to live in Jerusalem, having kids here, raising kids in Jerusalem, and telling stories about it? I probably would say my grandparents would say, maybe. But actually, here we are. And the most unbelievable happened. And because of the most unbelievable happened, nowadays I can believe in everything, and that the better days will come, and so the peace will be in the whole entire world. And from this place, from the Kotel, we will go further and further And really, I would really love to meet you all. לשנה הבאה, בירושלים, ביום ירושלים, בירושלים הבנויה, just right here, all together with great health and happiness. Thank you for joining me on this tour.
Any question for Shlomo?
I would just like to comment that Shlomo is a born storyteller. It was really very, very nice to be there virtually. Thank you, Shlomo.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us, and happy Yom Yerushalayim.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
everyone, and thank you, Shlomo.
Thank you very much. Isn't it amazing that all of us together, the Western World Heritage Foundation and Jewish National Fund and all this kind of entrepreneurs just trying to wake up and say, hey, we can deliver Jerusalem to every home and to every heart around the world. And so Ifat, thank you very much for the opportunity. It's one of the best things I have ever done in my life, bringing virtual tours and bring Jerusalem to homes and hearts of people around the world. So thank you very, very much, and all the best to all of you. See you soon, hopefully.
Shalom. Bye-bye.
Chag Sameach. One of the gifts of COVID. Thank you.